Hey there, this is Birch. Um, so this question is a big question. I'm not sure how to answer it. And I got this feedback like, hey, thanks for the videos. You're talking about a lot of topics, all fun. But I get asked this question: what do I think of current comics? Do I like them? What do I think? I think I have a reputation online for taking this balanced middle ground. And I mean, the reality is, I try and view and communicate in that way. I want to hear other people's opinions, and the fastest way to hear nothing is if you shut people down and won't listen to them. So I want to give people a chance to talk, and that's a belief that I've always held. It's one that definitely gets me into trouble. There's a lot of creators, not a lot, but there's a handful of creators that have blocked me simply because I didn't go off on one of them Nazis on social media. And number one, I think somebody complaining about comics in bad taste may be a jerk, may certainly be an a-hole, but don't want to. They're not. When I see true Nazi behavior, then I will absolutely block, not converse. I think if somebody is going off about how women can't work in comics, I 100% agree. Full stop. No agreement with that statement. And if somebody's going to beat that drum over and over, is an idiot, and I'll say so. But generally speaking, my approach is I want to listen. I want to hear what people are saying, and that's how I'm going to learn. That's how I'm going to both validate and possibly change my mind about opinions. I think if you're so insecure that you can't listen to an opposing viewpoint, um, and maintain your opinion, then your opinion's not worth anything. It's clearly not a good opinion if you can't have it challenged in any way. Good opinions are ones that survive challenges, and challenges being respectful. Of course, somebody who's just going to bleat and scream is an idiot. That's I don't know why I have to say any of this, but it's that question of what do I think of modern comics, because modern comics on social media are taking a beating. There are definite fans. I mean, it's not, it's hard to say. People like to say, oh, it's a vocal minority of people who are hating on today's comics. It's more than a vocal minority. I think it's not 12 cranks who are just complaining all the time. It's bigger than that. It is, I do believe that, in terms of, if you take the entire pie of all the people buying comics right now, the complaints you hear on social media and the people who are really banging that drum, it is definitely the smaller group. It's not 50%. It's probably not 25%. But some of the things they're complaining about are absolutely things that other groups complain about too, like price, like reboots, like relaunches, like a feeling like the publisher, the creators don't care about the comics that they're writing, that they're just churning them out like a machine. And I don't think that's that controversial a statement, because if you've gone to panels with big name people, they will say similar things. Like, one reason they don't want to do as much work for the big two is because it feels like a factory of just shoving out comics, and respected people. I think this has been something that Rick Remender has said on occasion. It's been something that a lot of the image creators have said of the big publishers. It's a machine, and it hurts storytelling. So I think that if the comment is, hey, today's modern comics feel too much like a kind of soulless corporate machine, I think there is precedent for that, and I think there is some truth to that, and I think there are a lot of comic creators who have in the past agreed with it. What they don't agree with is when you say, and the reason behind that corporate soulless machine are gay people or trans people. I think that's kind of where the silliness creeps in, and that's a weird cause and effect that people are pulling together. But again, back to comment ahead. Do I like modern comics? Yeah, I do. I think this is now my most personal opinions. Um, I think comics are too expensive. I absolutely think they're too expensive. I think that they're priced out of the market for sure. And I also think that there is a lot of truth of the cash grab kind of mentality of there's books that don't feel like or good example. Oh man, I want to pick on somebody else, but I mean, a good example is Spider-Man. So I think that Nick Spencer coming on to Spider-Man breathed fresh air into that title. I don't think it's just that he brought back the Mary Jane relationship. I felt like he's trying to do some new things, and it's a new voice, and it feels good. It feels like a nice change to Spider-Man. What feels like the cash grab are the 6 to 8 comics surrounding Spider-Man. Like I do feel like Miles Morales as a character, when he was in the Ultimate Universe, had a good thing going, and then I think when he was moved over and integrated into the 616, it lost. I mean, it's an aimless book, and it was. I felt it was an aimless book under Bendis during that time period. I felt it was an aimless book now under. Um, I forget the writer who's doing it now. Gosh, sorry, I'm spacing it, but I think that there's a lot of comics that feel like extra filler comics. And Tom Taylor is doing a Spider-Man book right now, the Peter Parker book, and it feels like the real Spider-Man book is the one Spencer is writing. That is the core. That's where there's a big thrust going, and these other things feel like sometimes the story's good, sometimes it's bad, and it feels like extra. It feels like just too much. And so you look at that, and I always think I would rather see a Tom Taylor do a new character of some kind, and not add on to more. I mean, you know, hey, let's put Spectrum, let's put Monica on a solo book. Let's put Tom Taylor on that book. Great, whatever. I mean, just I would rather see the company experimenting with new titles than kind of taking one title and milking it for 6 or 8 other issues. I think that it gets excessive, and I'm sensitive to that. That's so in modern comics. I think there's way too much of that. There's just way too much filler. I understand the business model behind it, but there are fewer when you take the comics in mass. When you take the entire collection of hundreds of books that are published a month, and you say which are the ones that really matter, that really have a powerful story, really have something to say. Maybe you like the issue, maybe you don't, but it's the creators are clearly going somewhere with this book. And when you're publishing 100 books a month and you have 25 books that are really going somewhere and some filler, then one quarter are really needle moving books, and that's great. But when you're publishing like 250 books and 25 of those books really count, well, now they're just starting to get drowned out. They're drowning in filler. That's the problem. That's what I see as the big problem right now in modern comics. Price too high, and just too much filler, way too much filler. I think if you pared down a line and just made every issue count, really, really count, then I think you'd be in a much better spot. I do also think that there's by having so many books out, I think you're seeing a hit to quality. You're seeing editorial mistakes that you shouldn't see. You're seeing cheaper art and quicker, less care to continuity and editorial line management that I think exists. So I mean, the state of current comics, but at the same time, I love East of West. I absolutely love that book. I love, I can go down the line. I've been enjoying parts of Uncanny X-Men. I have not enjoyed the spin-offs and the cash grab, if you will. It's not my favorite Uncanny X-Men run by any stretch of the imagination, but I enjoy that at least some of the elements of danger are coming back into it. I like what Grant Morrison's doing on Green Lantern. It's different. It's cool. Okay. Ask me again 20 issues from now if I still think it's amazing, but it's good. I think Scott Snyder is interesting because what he's doing with Justice League feels very like ridiculously ambitious. He's putting up a ton of ideas. Some of them are good, some are bad. Not everything is landing. It's confusing at times, but he is going for it. If you pick up that book, you get the feeling like here's somebody who is going for it, and I like that. I like that. Yeah, I like people who swing for the fences. Um, I'm not a fan of Tom King's Batman. It sells really, really well. So as a retailer, I'm a huge fan of it. But as a reader, it feels like it's it's going for an emotional look of Batman that just feels too decompressed, if you will. It feels like we're just going and going and going and going down this kind of brutal ride that it's like tighten it up, man. You got to start, cut a quarter of these issues out and tighten the whole thing up because it's this storytelling is it feels wearing. And what's interesting on that comment is I've noticed newer readers to Batman, people who haven't followed the character, are really enjoying the decompression. They like the comics as they are. And people who have read Batman for 20 plus years are struggling with how slow it's moving. And there's a clue there, I think, to the title. But anyway, over on the Marvel side, like I said, I think I liked what Spencer has done, bringing some life into Spider-Man. I really want to like what Aaron is doing on Avengers, but that something's missing. Something's off on that title. It's all over the place. It's off. I like Saga, as I've talked about in the past. I still trudge through with Walking Dead. It's gotten a little. I mean, they're it's gotten a little repetitive at this point, but they've got a story to tell. Really like Skyward. Big fan of that book. Think that's really really nice. I've liked the Duggan Conan series. I think that's the better of the series. I think it's really some quite nice stuff there. Um, I generally look at any comic and find something to like. Generally speaking, I can find something I enjoy. I can find something worthwhile in nearly any comic. It's a tough day when there's nothing to like. But I try my best, and I mean, try and see the good in comics. But modern comics, this isn't the best era, the one we're in right now. It's not the worst either. I think there have been worse eras. I should probably go into that. But all things considered, it's like on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say we're in like a 6. And I think for a lot of people are like, wow, that's quite high. There's people who just think comics are just in the dirt. But if you take out the price and you take out some of the shenanigans that various people get themselves into, it's not I've seen worse, and I think there are some good stories to find out there. You just have to find to look for it, and I think this is true. One area that I think comic publishers and the business are doing, perhaps I don't know about the worst they've ever done, but pretty bad, is they are failing at speaking to their audience, at speaking to customers and saying, what do you like? Do you like this, and this? Then here is the book for you. I think there is an area where the publishers have really dropped the ball, and they put a lot of the burden on comic shops who try and rise to the occasion, but they're often slightly out of the loop. And it's that this is the publisher's job. They need to do a much better job of saying, here's a book, here's who it's for. We've got a book for everybody. Here's a book for you and your interest. Here's a book for you and your interest. Here's how we're going to line up and match the titles to readers. That's something that we'll talk about more in the future. But that's a current fact of the modern era that is just an F, complete F in terms of how that's being done. But do I like? Do I like the modern era? I liked. I think I liked it better 10, 15 years ago. I think the start of the 2000s, a lot of neat things come out, and some really interesting things were being pushed. I liked the late 80s, into the early 90s. I was not as big a fan of the mid 90s as a lot of people are, but like I said, there's always a good comic to push out. And one of the things I'm going to do on this channel is do more to push out. Here's some good books. Here's why I like them. Are you like me? This book would appeal to you. Are you not like me? Well, tell me about yourself. Let me find a book for you. Anyway, thanks for listening. Subscribe, get notified, send some feedback. Tell me where I'm wrong. Give me some topic suggestions. Would love to talk to you. Thank you.